How far would you go to not look like an alcoholic? I did a video recently about the hiding drink and hiding drinking, but this is going to be about how we hide buying drink, and it leads to some interesting irony, futility, pointlessness, but also an interesting kind of viewpoint of denial. So the idea for this came from a conversation I was having with some of my classmates, my college classmates. Not exactly sure how we got to it, but I was talking about how the different ways in which I would sneakily buy alcohol. And everyone, like I say, it is kind of going to go on a sliding scale. So I think a moderate drinker knows where they can buy alcohol. They know where the local off licenses are. They know they can go to the supermarket, and they might know where their 24-hour off license is for, emergency scenarios, and like a house party is happening and you've run out. Anyway, someone with a more serious problem might know every single one, and what time they close, maybe what time they open. And then there's the person who knows exactly what drinks they'll get from each one for different scenarios, occasions, times of day, etc. And I think about how my drinking progressed. And to start with, it was the simple stuff. Like I would go to the convenience store between the station and my home on the way home, and I'd pop in there and I'd buy a couple of tins. This is before my vodka phase. I'd buy a couple of tins from there because, that's normal. Buying a couple of cans on the way home. A normal person just has a couple of beers or a couple of ciders, or one of each in my case, on the way home. And then you go into the other shop, the little co-op mini supermarket on the other side, and I might buy a couple of individual bottles in there. And I think at that stage, maybe I was kidding myself. Maybe it was like maybe I was thinking to myself, I probably kind of did think to myself, today I'm just going to have these couple. I mean, I'm just going to have the couple that I bought in the first shop, and I'm going to have the couple that I bought in the other shop. And that's going to be it today. But I don't want anyone in those shops know that I've bought myself 4 cans tonight, because having 4 cans at home on your own in an evening is maybe a bit much. But inevitably, most nights 4 wasn't enough, because then at whatever time I ran out, I'd be going the other way down the high street at, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, if not earlier or later, to buy another 2 cans from one shop, and I'd keep walking down and I'd buy another 2 from the other shop. So maybe I've got it's funny when I look back at it, but the average day would have been 8 cans from 4 different shops, if not more. If not, I've already had a couple in a pub or a bar in town after work already, and who knows, maybe I end up going out at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock just before one of the late shops closed to grab another last two. So that's your first phase, your lower level. It's the person buying small amounts from multiple shops. And then I think about my progression, and then it was, then you maybe like have times when you stock up a bit. You might go to a supermarket and buy a crate, and obviously that never lasts long enough. But it's totally normal going to a supermarket and buying a crate of beer every now and then. Why not? I mean, I wasn't much of a beer drinker. I generally had more cider, but I might go into a shop and I'd buy a cider. Anyway, I think a lot of people with a drinking problem will know that kind of person that goes around multiple places, buying small amounts, hoping that those people in there don't think that I'm an alcoholic. Because heaven forbid someone would think, or might think, that I've got a problem with alcohol. Heaven forbid someone might think I've got a problem with alcohol, because I don't have a problem with alcohol. I'm only buying a couple. I'm totally fine. But I maybe know I'm drinking a bit more than most people. And maybe I don't want all the people on my high street running these off licenses to know that I've, not a problem, but drinking a bit more than most people every day. And then I think about some other kinds of purchasers, some other kinds of drinkers, purchasers. A classic that I never got into was people that buy miniatures. The little like 25 or 50 ml bottles of spirit. And I'm amazed there's so many of them out there. People that will just go in and buy like one or two miniatures, but they'll be going to multiple shops throughout the day buying these miniatures. And, they like lose count of how many they've had really, but the cost of that must be insane. Like, I was a super frugal alcoholic. I was, the reason I started drinking vodka was because it was cheaper than buying separate cans. That literally was the only reason I bought it. So these people who are like buying the miniatures, I'm just like, they're crazy. But my point is, those kinds of people who are going into these places, popping into multiple places all throughout the day, just buying a miniature, that's got to be classic alcoholic behaviour. Who pops into an off license and buys 50 mils of vodka at 10 in the morning? An alcoholic. So there's people out there that don't care what people think of them. They're just like, I'm drinking, I want my vodka, I'm going to get some miniatures, don't care what the person thinks, just give them. But I wasn't them. I was paranoid. And I wonder, is it because I was kidding myself? I mean, yes, partially I was kidding myself. I was in denial. But that's the irony. I know I'm drinking more than most people because I'm drinking quite a bit every day. And I know that my total I'm drinking every week is well beyond the recommended intake for men per week. I could be having more than the recommended weekly input every day. And by the end I was. And then you get to that next stage, and this is kind of some of the things that we talked about with my classmates. Is there was because one of them works in a supermarket, and she was saying how there's a couple who come in and they buy a few bottles of wine, and they will disappear into the toilets and drink a bottle of wine between them, or each, or whatever. But she was telling us how the bins in the supermarket toilets often are full of drinks bottles, because people going into the supermarket buying a few to make it look like they're buying for a party or stocking up, but then they're going and necking at least one of them in the bogs because they need it. Then they need it. And then there's someone in the next stage, someone who's moved on to the vodka like me, who's physically dependent, and they start to get the shakes in between drinks, be it first thing in the morning or whenever. They're starting to get the shakes, and they're coming in and they're buying, 70 centilitre bottle or litre bottle of budget vodka, and the hands are shaking. And I remember going into the off licenses, and it would be, just wanting to get it done, over and done as quick as possible. I had to pay with card, and I had to do it quickly and smoothly. In, bottle of that, thanks, on the circuit, always have my rucksack, take off my rucksack, card, ping, boom, grab it, do it. And every movement I was paranoid that my hand would be shaking. And then there was one last thing that came up. And it's interesting because this one I did quite a few times, but I'd never heard anyone else say it. And that was, if it was early morning and I needed some alcohol, I would go into your little Sainsbury's local or something like that and buy a bottle of rosé and a birthday card or a congratulations card or something like that to make it look like I was buying someone a congratulations and bottle of rosé. It's not for me. I'm a guy. I'm definitely not buying rosé for me, and it's definitely not for me because look, I'm buying a card with it as well. Yeah, just so that if I'm in somewhere at 8 o'clock in the morning, that I'm not going to look like an alcoholic because I'm buying a rosé and a card. So I'd never heard another alcoholic say that they'd done that, but this woman who works in the supermarket says, she's seen someone in there do it a couple of times. Yeah. And what was really interesting that this woman said was, she said she sees these people and she's wondered what stage they're at. When's the woman who just comes in and buys 2 bottles of red wine every day? When's she going to move on to the vodka? When are her hands going to start shaking as she puts her hand up? And at what stage might any of them stop coming? Because something happens. And we discussed what can you do? Can you say to that person, are you okay? Do you need some help? Do you need some support? Do you really think you should be buying that? There's multiple things you could say which come across in different ways. And the thing is, if someone's in denial, it doesn't matter what you say. I mean, there's a chance it might plant a seed in their head and they'll go, blimey, even the person in the supermarket's recognised it, maybe I should get some help. But more likely, it's just going to make that person just not shop there anymore. Because there's so many places you can get alcohol. Just move on to the next. So yeah, the lengths we go to not look like an alcoholic. Even to strangers in shops that don't know us and we don't know. We're still putting on a front for the sake of them, for the sake of ourselves, in a weird kind of balance of conscious and subconscious knowledge. Partial level of self-awareness of our problem. So yeah, I hope that resonated with some of you. And if you're not yet at one of the latter stages, just think to yourself, have I done anything sneaky? Am I lying to myself for the sake of saving face to someone I don't know? I don't know. How far would you go?